One of Saturn's moons is shooting water into space right now. Another one looks like someone left a ravioli floating in the solar system. And one of them, I promise I'm not making this up, is literally stealing from Saturn. Like, actively stealing. Today we're covering 8 of Saturn's wildest moons, and the last one genuinely breaks how you think planets work. Let's go. We're starting with Mimas. And yeah, it looks exactly like the Death Star. Not kind of. Not if you squint. Exactly. A massive crater on one side. Roughly the same proportions, same vibe. When the Voyager probe sent back photos in 1980, scientists genuinely had a moment. The thing is, Mimas almost didn't survive the impact that made that crater. The hit was so powerful that if it had been even slightly bigger, Mimas would have shattered completely. It basically took a universe-sized punch to the face and survived. Honestly, that's either inspiring or terrifying depending on your mood. But here's the weird part. Despite looking like the most dramatic moon in the solar system, Mimas is considered scientifically boring. No atmosphere, no liquid, no activity, just vibes. Which makes what comes next even more insane. Then there's Hyperion. Hyperion doesn't rotate. Not in any normal way. It tumbles. Randomly. With no fixed spin axis. Scientists call it chaotic rotation, which is the scientific way of saying this moon woke up every day and chose violence. Imagine going to the gym with someone who just does random exercises in random order every single session, and somehow their whole body is still weirdly shaped like a sponge. That's Hyperion. It's also covered in these deep, steep-walled craters that make it look like a giant pumice stone, except it's about the size of a city. The low density means it's mostly empty space inside. Porous, like it's 40% hollow. Scientists think impacts on Hyperion don't bounce material back into space. They just compress inward, deepening the holes. A moon that absorbs punches. And somehow it gets worse. Which brings us to Iapetus. Two-toned, half jet black, half bright white, like someone took a yin-yang symbol and turned it into a moon. The dark side is one of the darkest surfaces in the solar system. The bright side is one of the brightest. On the same object. For centuries after its discovery in 1671, astronomers couldn't figure out why they could only see it on one side of Saturn's orbit, because the dark side was literally too dark to see from Earth. That's how extreme the contrast is. And it also has a massive equatorial ridge, a mountain range running around its entire middle like a seam on a tennis ball, some peaks taller than Mount Everest. Nobody fully agrees on how it formed. The universe basically said, here's a moon, it's half invisible, it has a mysterious belt, good luck explaining it. Drop a comment. Which of these 3 would you actually want to land on? And yes, the Death Star counts as an option. But if you think that's insane, meet Pan. Pan is shaped like a flying saucer, or a ravioli, or a walnut. Whatever food metaphor your brain reaches for first, that's Pan. It orbits inside Saturn's rings, and the ring material physically piles up around its equator over time, giving it that ridiculous disc-shaped bulge. It's essentially a moon that went to the cosmic equivalent of a buffet and couldn't stop. It's only about 35 kilometers wide, but it punches a clean gap in Saturn's rings as it orbits, called the Anki Gap. A tiny ravioli-shaped object dragging a highway through a ring system millions of kilometers wide. The universe has absolutely no sense of scale. Meanwhile, on the complete opposite end of weird, Prometheus is straight up stealing from Saturn. This moon orbits just inside one of Saturn's rings, and its gravity pulls out these long, dark streaks of ring material every single time it passes. Like reaching into a bag of chips that doesn't belong to you and taking a handful. Scientists literally call these channels, and you can see them in Cassini's images. These dark tendrils extending from the ring every time Prometheus swings by. It does this on a cycle. Predictable, habitual theft. If this behavior was in a person, HR would have had a serious conversation by now. And the ring doesn't fight back. It just gets slightly thinner over time. Saturn is out here losing its own rings to one of its own moons, and there's nothing it can do about it. Then there's Titan. And Titan is different. Titan is the overachiever of this entire list. It has a thick atmosphere, thicker than Earth's. It has weather. It has seasons. It has rivers, lakes, and rain. Except all of it, the rain, the rivers, the lakes, is liquid methane, not water. Methane. If you landed on Titan, You'd be standing on sand made of organic molecules, breathing nitrogen, watching methane clouds drift overhead. The temperature sits around minus 179 degrees Celsius. NASA has literally approved a mission called Dragonfly, a drone the size of a car, to fly around Titan and explore it. We are sending a flying robot to a moon with methane weather. And Titan is bigger than the planet Mercury. This isn't a moon. This is a planet that Saturn captured and never let go. If your brain is starting to feel a little overwhelmed right now, good. That means it's working. You already know what to do. Which brings us to Phoebe. Phoebe doesn't belong here. Not poetically, literally. It orbits Saturn backwards compared to every other major moon. It's dark, rocky, and its composition matches objects from the outer solar system, specifically the Kuiper Belt, billions of kilometers away. The leading theory is that Phoebe is not a moon that formed with Saturn. It's a captured object, something that drifted in from the edge of the solar system billions of years ago and got caught in Saturn's gravity. A visitor that never left. It's basically the office hire nobody really knows, who showed up one day, does everything differently from everyone else, and somehow just stayed. Phoebe is 4 billion years old and holds chemical records of the early solar system. Scientists study it not to understand Saturn, but to understand how the solar system was built. It's a time capsule wearing a moon costume. And then there's Enceladus. Save the best for last, or in this case, the most unsettling. Enceladus is small, only 500 kilometers across. You'd barely call it a moon, except it's shooting geysers of water vapor and ice into space from its south pole. Not occasionally, constantly. Right now, as you watch this, Enceladus is blasting a plume of water hundreds of kilometers into space. That water feeds one of Saturn's rings. A tiny frozen moon is actively building a ring around a planet. But here's the part that changes everything. Under that ice, there's a liquid ocean. Warm, salty, with hydrothermal vents on the seafloor. The Cassini probe flew through those geysers and detected hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and organic molecules. Everything, and I mean everything, that life needs to start. Not life adjacent. Not life possible. Life probable. In an ocean under the ice of a moon that barely shows up.